Hey there, and welcome to the podcast Tiling Connect, hosted by Mark Moskwa. This show is designed to connect people with the best information intended to strengthen the business of tiling. To keep up to date with all the episodes, don't forget to subscribe.
Today's episode is brought to you by RLA Polymers and Gripset. For peace of mind when waterproofing, trust Gripset's 38FC, the king of membranes. 38FC has been the industry benchmark for years and is rigorously tested internally and through certified NADA laboratories, giving you verified peace of mind. Developed alongside contractors, 38FC has confirmed coverage of 10 square metres per pale and adheres to AS 4858 and AS 4654 compliance. With a quick 1 hour recode time, you can get the job done in record speed without compromising on quality. Don't fall for the copycat products. Trust Gripset's 38FC, the king of membranes. Hey everybody, Mark here from Tiling Connect. Welcome back to the program. More importantly, welcome back to another episode. Loving what we're dishing up this year in 2025. And as history has it, we have another incredible guest with us today, another rock star of the industry, because that's the theme that we're sticking with for 2025. And I have Paul Hayes, who is the Managing Director of Roberts Designs and MaxiSeal, joining me on the show. Paul, welcome to the program.
Thanks very much, Mark. Appreciate the invitation.
Mate, you're very welcome. And you and I have known each other for quite some time, and I was pretty excited when you put your hand up and agreed to come on the program, because I know that you've got a pretty deep pedigree in a number of different roles and positions, and now obviously the owner of the business here in Australia for Roberts Designs and the distribution of MaxiSeal. And I know that we're going to deep dive into that today. So look, I think the best place for us to start, of course, is at the beginning. And if you could sort of share a little bit about your history and the company and how you got here today, that would be fantastic.
My journey into the tile industry is really by luck, Mark. My wife and I were living in Asia in the early 2000s and had probably really enough of the corporate world. And one of the trips back to Australia, I saw Roberts Designs and MaxiSeal for sale. Contracted the broker that was selling the business, and my keen interest was really on MaxiSeal. So after quite a few lengthy discussions, and some 12 months later, in the middle of 2015, my wife and I purchased both businesses. So for me, a long journey. I'd worked in distribution-based businesses and manufacturers, both globally and locally, for a long period of time. But my background is in a trade field. I'm a fitter and turner by trade, and had enough of that, but loved working my hands and making things and coming up with solutions. So naturally just progressed into then selling products and got into distribution for a long period of time, and then into a manufacturing field as well. So 20 odd years of being in the industry, Roberts and MaxiSeal was a really good fit. And funny enough, I reflect back on those times quite often and think of how did I get here. And it's a funny story I tell lots of our partners, being that I bought the business really for MaxiSeal. I didn't know what tiling products really were. I've never laid a tile in my life. I probably should learn to do that at some point in time, but my passion really is for the innovation and the products. And I can remember back on when we were doing the due diligence on the business and doing one of the stock takes before the final handover and the completion of the acquisition. And one of the old owners said to me, "Hey, perhaps you should come out to the warehouse here and do a stock take with me on this tiling trim." I looked at him and said, "What the hell is that?" And I look back at it now, and it's a fair percentage of our business. So my journey into the tiling industry is quite a unique one, I suppose. I didn't grow up with it, but I've come to love it. I've come to love the people that are in the business and a lot of our partners.
Mate, incredible journey. Obviously, you've had a mix of experiences in your past career that have really gravitated you towards business ownership. And certainly you've acquired a number of skills that have really set you up for success there. And, I always look at people that are from outside the tiling industry that come into the tiling industry. There's always this piece of career experience that certainly lends to them being quite good at what they do. And look, I'm really curious though, what was it about MaxiSeal that you really particularly liked, that you said to yourself, I've got to have this business? Like, what was it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for me, it was coming from where I was working at a global manufacturer of adhesives and sealants. Was I looked at this brand and thought, wow, this is a brand that's highly valued. It's the Rolls Royce in the category. It's got great features and benefits. People love it. And it's really not getting a lot of love. It was in a lot of locations around the country. When we bought the business, it was 13, 14 years old. And for me, it was about, I could have a lot of fun with this in scaling it. I really saw the opportunity to give it a lick of paint, give it a bit of a nudge. And I saw this brand to be something that could go global, which is something that we're embarking on at the moment, but really had a lot of locked up value inside it when we talk about product range, its capabilities. But more importantly, it had this unique feature to be solving problems that a lot of tilers were having, expensive callbacks and so on. So for me, there was that attractiveness to unlock the value and spread the word.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. That's one of my favourite things, is when you see something that's unloved, and I mean that politely, but when you see something that's unloved, that you see so much potential in being able to just expand and grow and build a brand, whether it's a brand or it's a particular product. And they're one, in this particular case, they're one and the same. There's a brand and a product behind it. But certainly it's pretty exciting. And I'm sure you've had, some pretty awesome times since you acquired that business. So that's pretty cool. And I'm sure we'll definitely deep dive into that throughout the program today. That's for certain. I am curious to know though, obviously the tiling tools part of it was, you are now aware from owning the business that it's a part of the business, and you've been doing it for some time, since 2015. What are some of the biggest challenges that you've found in your time in distribution and, more importantly, importing tools into retailers, but bringing it into the Australian market?
Yeah, it's a tricky game, and a lot of people on the outside think that it's quite simple. I think simple and easy are two different things, and it's a term that I use quite often to explain a lot of the different scenarios that we go through from day to day. But one of the biggest challenges we face is freight, both from talking about importing and then distributing throughout Australia. We are far away from a lot of the manufacturers of good quality products. So, for instance, we bring in a large percentage of our products from Europe. Sure, we've got some products out of China, but that in itself presents quite a few headwinds when we're talking about either costs or lead times and so on. So, freight and the tyranny of distance is certainly the biggest challenge that we face in the import and distribution business. The second one is really around compliance. From being a chemical importer and the owner of a brand like MaxiSeal, there's quite a lot of compliance that we must adhere to, from chemical importation and so on. So keeping abreast of that is quite interesting. And that's changing from day to day. We talk about GHS compliance. And there's a lot of brands out there that don't comply, which in its own right is tricky, because potentially we've got people using products that don't adhere to local legislation and barriers that saying they shouldn't be in the hands of some people because of carcinogens or whatever it might be. So for me, it's about making sure that we're compliant, and that takes a bit of time, and it takes a heck of a lot of money too, to make sure you're doing the right things. So I'd say they're the two biggest things. We've had the COVID pandemic. We've now got, obviously, shipping issues throughout the Suez Canal that impact a lot of our lead times and cost as well. So freight is definitely front of mind.
Yeah, look, it's It's a really interesting topic, freight. In the time that I've been in the industry, obviously it has been and can be a massive challenge, and it certainly adds a significant amount of cost to the product by the time you import it into the country, and then you have to split it into warehouses and then split it from warehouses into retailers, and then you look at the landscape of Australia compared to the size of Europe. We're a pretty big place, so. I think a lot of times people don't quite understand, particularly the customers don't quite understand when you're putting in things like price increases and they go, oh my God, it's gone up that much. It's like, have you ever shipped something from Brisbane to Perth? It's not free. So I hear you.
Yeah. And that's one of the biggest challenges. I mean, look, when we talk to our partners, and I eloquently call our retailers partners because we're joined at the hip. We've got common customers in mind, and you're right. And look, we all don't want to pay freight, but it's a necessary evil. And you're right. I don't see trucks running around a place with free to use on the side of them. That's for sure. So,
no, exactly.
It all costs money,
mate. Look, talking about just moving forward a little bit because I have a tendency to waffle on a bit. Apologies. Talking about sort of tiling tools, there's obviously such a broad range of products, right? You've got tile cutters, you've got saws, you've got hand tools, you've got, as you mentioned before, there's chemical products that can fit into that mix as well. And I can imagine the SKU count, there's quite a number of products. How do you actually go about determining which tools to import? And so what factors influence your product making decisions?
Yeah, look, we look at this very, very plainly, and part of our key business model and our strategy, because they're two different things, is that we're out there to save the tiler time and money, and that's drilled right throughout the business. So if we look at a certain category, we either look at the application that the tiler or the builder is doing, and say, can this be done any better? And we really take a deep dive into looking at how that, potentially a product or a process can be changed to save them time and money. And my sales team, obviously 10 years gone by and they're probably sick and tired of me saying it, but, the best next widget on my desk is not necessarily the best thing for our customer in mind. So we really look at that unmet need that's in the market and say, okay, well, can a trowel be better? Then we also talk to our customers, and when I call our customers, I'm talking about the tiler because that's truly our customer.
Yeah.
And so we spend a disproportionately large amount of time with tilers and builders and say, okay, well, what do you like about a product? What don't you like about it? If you could change anything, what would that be? And a real classic example of that being our niche boxes that we introduced 8 years ago. Said, okay, well, great. We can see this trend happening, but, how can this be done better? How can we save the tiler time and money? And that was a simple solution of making a fall on the front of our niche boxes. That saved the tiler 15, 20 minutes of mudding up and getting the tile on an angle. So we really take a deep dive into that, and we spend a lot of time because the easy part is finding a place for it to be made and then shipping it.
Yeah.
All the work is done in the background, and we typically spend about 2 years before the product arrives into the country. So, I'd like to think that we really spend a lot of time with our customer and try and understand what their needs are. So we stay true to the fact of trying to save them time and money.
Yeah, right. So would part of that research piece and investigation include things like workshops or focus groups and the such?
It involves definitely work groups. So we have a initiative within the business called Voice of the Customer. So we have a select group of tilers that we go to and say, hey, look, what do you think of this? Do you want to trial it? And it's called the sieve. Is it a fit? Can it be brought into Australia? So we have a pretty good traffic light system that says, okay, if we've got feedback from here, it goes to the next stage of investment, larger sampling size. We don't go to focus groups as such, but I think probably by default that's our voice of the customer group of about 40 odd tilers that we depend on.
Yeah. Paul, tell me about trends. So what trends are you seeing in the tiling tool industry? And this sort of lends a little bit to what we were just talking about. And sort of when we talk about, and you're talking about the end user, what part does the retailer play in that piece of the discussion as well? Because I'm sure that they have, they're the ones buying the product as well, and they're the ones supporting as a partner of Roberts. Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, okay. So the trends side, look, we're seeing customers wanting more and more value. Yes, it's getting into tougher times, and the default process can be just to focus on price. And that's important, but at the end of the day, what we're seeing a lot more of a trend going towards is value-based products. So, and that's the perception of value from the end user. So and our partners play a huge role in this. And we're continually spending time with them talking about how to sell value, rather than selling necessarily lots and lots for not a lot of money, but selling products where they can get a higher margin, perhaps provide that extra value to their customer. And I'm starting to see that trend more and more now that I'm spending a lot more time out in the field with the sales team by choice, because I enjoy being out there and meeting our partners and being with our end customers. But certainly that's a really big trend. And for me, I think in the next 2 to 3 years, the partners we've got that become that knowledge base for the tiler to come in and get that extra knowledge will be crucial, because we also see the trend of that skills gap with tilers, that it's not necessarily being passed on, or they might be new to the trade where they don't have a lot of experience. So instead of learning by mistakes, a lot of tilers wanting to connect and have that point of technical assistance. So I think for me, we're in a really good position to do that, because we spend so much time out in the field doing so many demonstrations and providing that value and saying, this is why you should use this product. This is why you should use MaxiSeal in this area. Or this is why you should use this trowel, because it's providing the value. So, we are interconnected with our partners and making sure that they are comfortable having that message as well. And it won't be for every one of our partners, but certainly I think the ones that will win in the next 3 to 5 years will be ones that invest in the technical part and share that with the tiler.
Yeah, I am really picking up what you're putting down. I've seen that a lot in my journey within the building product space, and I've been working now in tiling, manufacturing, power tools, leadership, sales for approximately 22 years. And it has become even more prevalent today that tilers really want to understand products that they're using and really deep dive into, as you've mentioned, value. Price is always going to play a piece of the puzzle. Maybe not for everybody, but certainly for a group of people. And they really want to understand how the product can, function, its features and benefits, the longevity of it. Particularly if they're using something like a silicon, they don't want to have to come back in 12 months' time or 18 months' time to reapply that product because there's been an issue with the product. They need to be able to understand the application, the cleanup, how it works, what sort of warranties are around it. And I think that's being largely driven by there's a few different age groups, but definitely the younger tilers, when they are coming through in the ranks, they definitely are gravitating more towards that information and that value-based product. That's for certain. That's what I'm seeing anyway. So yeah, really, really, really good point. I will ask though, I'm very curious, what would you say outside of MaxiSeal, because I'm sure we're going to talk about that, but outside of MaxiSeal, what would you say is the most powerful brand that you have in range?
Yeah, look, it's been It's been an interesting one, because if you had asked me that question 2 years ago, I mean, outside our standard Roberts brand, which is across, a number of our categories, tiling, trim, tools, we are the exclusive distributor of quite a number of marquee brands. If you had asked me that sort of 12 months ago, I would have said to you really that obviously our Sigma product is highly sought after. But because we've got an innovation focus and we're continually looking at how do we solve the next problem that our customers have, I would definitely say it's our new Guardia product that we are now distributing throughout Australia and New Zealand. Yeah. And this is the floor protection product, which is a fairly big problem in the market with damage to floors and so on before the builder hands over, or damage to a tiling area. So really that has really gained pace in the last 3 to 4 months, and it's certainly probably now one of our largest sellers outside our Roberts and Maxi Seal brands. Yep. And it's crystallised to me really about staying on that problem-solving track. Because I think it's very, very simple just to go and find another tool that your competitor's got and just copy it and put it in the market and say, oh, I've got that as well, and hey, I can sell it cheaper and whatever it might be. But this is truly a product that's out there that's solving one of the biggest headaches that builders and tilers have, which is damage to the floor or the substrate prior to it being handed over to the homeowner. Yeah. So look, that is definitely gaining a lot of momentum in Australia.
Look, I've seen floor protection products around before, and I've had multiple conversations with different people that are either distributing it or importing it. What just really quickly in a couple of words, or maybe a sentence or two, what's the difference between your competitors and the Guardia product that you're bringing in? And you did say you guys are the distributor for Australia, or the owner of that product?
We are the distributor for it. It's a product that's made in Turkey. And look, the key main differences with this compared to the other products in the market is that this product requires no tape. It's breathable and it's water resistant. So the other products on the market are a cardboard product or a core flip product, which is hard to manage. And the last part being it's reusable. So the builder or the tiler can use it up to 4 or 5 times. It's just so simple. And, it's slip resistant as well. So we're solving multiple problems there, which was one of the key problems the builders had, especially on laminate flooring, was the product, or the cardboard product would sweat underneath it. So if it was down for a couple of weeks, there'd be a moisture level underneath that and the floor protection and the floor, which would then seep in and damage the floor. Where this product is breathable. It's been in the market about 15 years, and to be honest, I found it by default, which is a funny story because I was building a house of my own and I had damage occur to the floor, and I looked at the builder and said, surely, why didn't we use something to put down prior to you handing that over to me? And he said, well, look, there really isn't much on the market. He said, I use this little bit of cardboard. So that set me off on the journey, and it's quite funny sometimes that is it necessity is the breeder of most invention, where it actually hits you home yourself. And so that sort of started me on the journey of finding this product. And here we are today, really providing a good solution for the tiler and the builder, but more importantly also then again our partners, which it's opened up a new category for them because they've never really talked to their tiler about this before, and they're starting to see that it's a real issue, and we're solving a problem.
And for all of those people out there that are thinking now, why can't I just use black plastic? We've just mentioned all the reasons why you shouldn't, particularly black plastic sweats, cardboard sweat underneath, and that can leach toxins into your floor coverings. So don't do it. Appreciate the share, Paul. I had to pick up on that because I hadn't, I think I might have seen a post or two from Roberts regarding the Guardia product, but I certainly, wanted to find out a little bit more about that. So thanks for sharing. Moving forward, when we're having a look at things like in your business, channel management, retailer relationships, this is obviously key in any business that is an importer and that is wholesaling into the Australian, New Zealand and or global markets. And I know that you've got a range of customers from big box retailers through to independent mum and dad stores and everything in between, because we have a very diverse environment in Australia and also in New Zealand. But, mate, can you explain to us your channel management strategy and how you ensure retailers are staying engaged and, more importantly, how they're committed to selling your products? And I ask this question because obviously you're not the only importer that brings product into the country. There are a number of players that you're up against. So I'd be keen to hear how you go about doing that.
Yeah, okay. For me, it's quite simple and easy. And as I said before, they're two different things. But for me, the idea of selling value is a key part. And us conducting a really large amount of demonstrations into how we can save the tiler time and money then creates that pull through back to the store. You know, I learned a long time ago that distribution businesses are not just based on calling on a store and saying, hey, I want you to take my product and, you know, I'll be back next week. That kind of doesn't work anymore, nor it should, I should say. But, you know, for us, it's about talking to our partners saying, listen, you know, this is a great product, but this is what I'm going to do to help sell it for you. Mm-hmm. So we spend a disproportionately large amount of time doing demonstrations at end users on building sites, giving out free samples. This is how it's not going to give you, you know, expensive callbacks. This is how you can save money. Are you sick and tired of having issues with this product? You know, so we do a lot of that, and then we circle back with a lot of our partners saying, hey, you know, Johnny down the road, et cetera, expect a call from him. So we do a lot of that in conjunction with a lot of our distribution partners, but then on our own. So we'd often say to them, hey, look, if you've got your top 10 customers where you'd like us to go and call on. So that's a key feature of what we do. And the guys are very good at doing that because, you know, combined, we've got over 70 years worth of tiling category experience. And our distribution partners and our end users know that, because when our guys roll up to do demonstrations, you know, we've got credibility because they've either known them for a long time or, you know, they talk the talk, right? Yeah. So that's really quite important. And to round that out, I'm a little bit famous for saying in the business that, look, I don't want to be the biggest wholesaler in the world. I just want us to be the best at what we're doing. And that comes across to being a reliable partner in the category. And that's easier said than done. I mean, you've really got to live it. And one of the key features and ways we do that is making sure that we've always got stock, which, you know, in any distribution-based business is, you know, the one thing you try and manage the best. You mentioned before around things with shelf life and so on. It's a tricky game. You know, we talk about one of your early questions around challenges of importing and distributing around Australia. I wanted us just to be reliable. So when our partner would ring us up and say, hey, look, have you got this? And yes, we do. But all of a sudden the customer wants 3,000 of these. Yes, we do. And that's been a key feature that I've had in the business for the last 10 years, is making sure that we're reliable. And, you know, that's one of the key reasons why I think we've grown, is we're trusted. We'll do what we say. We won't make false promises. We won't say things that we can't do. And we'll back it up by history and making sure that relationship grows.
A quick word from our sponsor. Partner with Gripset and become one of Australia's leading waterproofers. Waterproofing is one of the most in-demand trades. With Gripset's accredited practitioner program, GAP, you'll be trained and certified in just 3 days. Backed by Australia's leading waterproofing supplies manufacturer and run by trainers with over 20 years of experience within the industry, GAP gives you a wealth of knowledge. Learn how to identify and prevent dampness and water damage in both residential and commercial structures by exploring the current Australian waterproofing standards, correct preparation of substrates for waterproofing, and how to apply both sheet and liquid membranes with a particular focus on the trickier areas such as joints and penetrations. Upon completion, you will be a fully accredited GAP applicator and will be able to access exclusive benefits and free business advertising to expand your clientele. Spots are filling up fast. Upskill today. Visit gripset.com/gap. That's gripset.com/gap, where great applicators get even better. Does the company, and I haven't been to your office for some time, and I do know that you've got additional branches opened up in different states now and new warehouse facilities, but when you walk into the office there in Melbourne, and I'm guessing that's probably where you are, do you have a sort of a vision and mission statement as you walk in the business that people can see that goes or lends to you're talking about reliability that lends to the rest of the values that the business upholds when they're out there in the marketplace?
Yeah, well, we don't have it plastered on the wall, but one of the key parts to our culture is that we are constantly talking about it.
Awesome.
It's something that I learnt back, working with large corporate companies, is how to have that right culture to ensure that our market message is consistent, and that takes a lot of work. And as you probably know, it's not just by sending out an email saying, "Hey, look, this is our vision, this is our strategy." But look, we're constantly living that every day of the week. In every single sales meeting we have, and every staff meeting, which we have regular updates every week, and then with the rest of the team around Australia, and now with our business being in the US as well, we openly discuss this, and our strategy and our initiatives are clearly communicated. And, I'd like to think that, if you ask one of my sales team out on the road, that they know exactly what we stand for and how we go to market, which is very, very important, because it makes us talk in a certain way that means that we're going to keep on delivering that value. We don't want to get into, selling something cheap and nasty just because we can make a buck this week. And, part of that takes a bit of discipline, and sticking to that strategy or that mission, being, we want to be the wholesaler that saves the tiler time and money. Look, I would get a couple of tilers a month ring me say, "I've got this fantastic product," and when I love it, it doesn't mean that it's going to work in the market, or it might not be aligned into our strategy and our initiatives that are rolling out. So, it takes a lot of discipline, and certainly even as a business owner to stay tuned to that, because some things are very tempting.
Yeah.
Especially when it's your money. You could take on a product line or something that can make the business a lot of money, but it might be adjacent or completely far away from your strategy. And we've had to do that over the past 10 years. I've had to walk away from quite a number of perhaps initiatives that just weren't a good fit. It wasn't within our capabilities. It would have distracted the team. So that's, I think, for me is pretty important.
Awesome, mate. Yeah, excellent share. We've sort of already touched on the next question, so I'm going to move forward a little bit. But one of the things that I picked up on that you mentioned before, obviously you're expanding into the US market. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Is it a secret?
No, not at all. I love talking about it. It's quite a passion of mine. And look, it's something going back to almost the first part of our catch up was, seeing a business that needed the good liquor paint. I thought could go global, and that's our MaxiSeal brand of sealants and adhesives, which we launched into the US a couple of years ago now, which we're having great success with, which we've got a facility in California with a partner that is going quite well. We've got distribution set up within North America now. And for me, again, it was seeing how this brand really creates its own space. In that North American market, there was nothing like, or there's been nothing like MaxiSeal, really that high-end, high-price, high-quality end of the market that is providing all the features and benefits that Australian tilers and builders love it for here in the US. So that's been great. It's been a fun ride. I'm actually heading there at the end of this week to go to Coverings, which is occurring next week, and then doing sales calls, for the next 3 weeks after that as well. So, for me, I'm having a whole heap of fun, which is what I love doing. Demonstrating product, talking to our partners, talking to our customers about how they can save time and money. And look, and the sky's the limit here. We're going to extend that MaxiSeal brand out in category size quite substantially. We've got nearly 20 products under development that will see that product range grow phenomenally. We're looking at taking our grout into the US as well, which we've got in the Australian New Zealand market. We'll look at importing that, but really having a lot of fun, Mark. And, for me,
nice.
10 years in the business, it's certainly given me a new hobby to focus on.
Yeah, wow. So for any of the community out there in Tiling Connect land, if they're in the States or in California, they wanted to buy some MaxiSeal, where do they go?
Yeah, we're across quite a large number of points of departure in the US. Our distributor in the US is called Russo Trading Company, which is almost an identical or carbon copy of Roberts, actually.
Oh, wow. There you
in
go.
the US. So we're there. We're also in Home Depot, on Amazon and on Wayfair. So certainly if you're in the US, Home Depot is a spot, as well as all the trading partners for Russo's.
Yeah, nice. Mate, just touching a little bit on, I suppose, a little bit about technology. And I know we've probably answered a few of these questions a little bit beforehand, and that's okay. There may be some other gold nuggets that might come out afterwards. But I'm curious, what technology systems do you use, and how do they play a part in managing your sales channel? Are there any tools that you use for efficiency or that you rely on in the business that help you excel and do an amazing job?
Yeah, and look, this is constantly changing. So look, part of our 5-year plan is investing in AI technology where we can get some efficiencies, and as you and I both know, this is constantly changing daily, and the things that can be done. So look, and that's certainly a facet for us now, is automating a lot of our processes in the back end for our supply chain, and getting a lot smarter with that, not working harder. Some years ago, we invested in a really good ERP system that manages our supply chain globally. So that's taken a lot of work out of manual ordering, but also I was talking before about making sure we've got stock of products. We very rarely run out of products, and a key feature of that has been our technology base around our ERP and our AI bolt-ins around seasonality and forecasting and identifying trends before we have a stock issue. So that's certainly one facet we're plugging into the business, but also a large part of our business and staying connected with our end users, for sort of broaden it a little bit into our partners, has been our EDI function. So we use EDI, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's electronic data interface, being our partners can order online with us through our portal, and it comes directly into our system. So it's a lot quicker. It's seamless. Less chance for errors or discrepancies, and they can see stock. They can see into each one of our warehouses, so they know what we've got and what we haven't got. But then just transforming across into our end users. Technology for me has also had the had the opportunity to contact and or interact with our end users at a greater level than ever before. And that's, taking up about 70% of our marketing budget now, which is, through social media, through other platforms, direct mail communications, which, is enabling us to further communicate our value proposition to our end users, being we want to save you time and money. And that is getting a lot of traction. So we get a lot of reviews back through that, and a lot of connection points. And we're seeing a way that tilers and builders now want to connect with us is not necessarily always by phone. It might be through a text message, or it might be through a blast or an email blast or some other form of technology, so then they can come back and give an answer or give feedback at a time that's more appropriate to them. So we're certainly seeing that shift. And you talked before about the younger tiler. That is certainly, a really cool way of connecting with them nowadays, because everyone's on their phones.
Yeah.
And if you think about our products, which are quite technical, how do you get that cut through? They either get it at the store or they get it online. They're not, unfortunately, picking up the encyclopedia or the Funk and Wagnalls anymore. We've got to make sure that we get through to them via the way in which they prefer, which is digitally.
Yeah. And look, to that point and to all of those points, we are all impacted by social media, digital media, the pace of life, how things are speeding up. And I think the quicker, faster, better and easier it is for someone to get information about products, the more likely they are to buy it and or have faith in the value that product is going to deliver to them on a job site. And essentially, I think that is what makes it tick really well. And to that point, what sort of role do you believe digital media marketing plays in influencing the buyer's decision about what product they do and don't buy?
It's a really good question. My marketing team and I often thrash this out. People buy from people they trust and they like, right? That's a key factor. And then they don't want to be the guinea pig. So for me, it's around reviews. It's around, I've used that as well. So peer-rated platforms, I think, is quite important. But I think also seeing how it practically solves a problem, is a key factor, which is why, a lot of our digital media initiatives are practical demonstrations or showcasing the product in the application. And that, seeing is believing. I got taught how to sell a very, very long time ago, and one of the guys who was my mentor said to me, telling's not selling, you've got to demo it. So just reading something on a page is not really where it's at. So they've got to see it, they've got to believe it. But just some writing on an Instagram post is not going to cut it anymore. So videos are definitely there, and that's what's seeing a lot of the cut through. And we're seeing a lot more uptake, in when we do a video, for instance, on a Maxi Seal demonstration or a Guardia demonstration. The contact or the views of that are a lot higher than just off scripted content.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. I mean, 2024, 2025, video content was most definitely by far the number one, statistically speaking, the number one platform that people would gravitate towards when they needed to learn about something educationally. And then, entertainment was always number one, but certainly education follows closely by number two. People want to, the how do I use that product, or, what do I need to do to use that product? So it's, it's an interesting space, mate. I appreciate you sharing that. It's, obviously something that I live and breathe every day, and I'm always curious about other people's input on how that works for them. We've touched on this a little bit before, but I want to just loop back around to it just one more time as we get towards the end of today's episode. I mentioned before there's a number of competitors in Australia, and there's probably there's a lot of major companies, but then there's probably also a lot of independents out there that I'm probably not aware of, that you're more aware of, that are just bringing in a couple of containers a month and, doing stuff out of the backyard of somewhere in, middle of Adelaide. And now I'm not picking on Adelaide, by the way. That was just, that was random. What differentiates Roberts Designs and MaxiSeal from your competitors in the marketplace? How do you guys position yourselves in terms of, people, products, value? What makes a retailer and or a tiler go, I'm going to buy from Roberts versus competitor X?
Yeah, it's a good question. And look, a key part for us is one of the things I mentioned before is being that reliable partner. Your distribution partner doesn't necessarily want to hear about your strategy, and a lot of that can be internal, but the dialogue of that. But a key differentiator for us is where we position our products is at the high price, high quality end of the market. Sure, we've had to have some products in that category to compete because of price or situational or volume or whatever it might be, but we're never ever going to be the cheapest in the market for all our products, and I'm okay with that. We want to make sure that we are in that marketing band. If you're a fan of Kotler, he believes that there's two positions in the market: high price, high quality, and low price, low quality. And if you're in the centre, nobody understands you, right? So we're definitely at that high price, high quality end, and everything that we do, we want to provide value back into the end user. Another key differentiator for us is our team. We've got some fantastic guys that have become part of the team from the tiling industry and are new within the tiling industry. As I said before, over 70 odd years of tiling experience is amazing. And it certainly helped me, come into this business whilst I knew sealants back to front. Every channel is unique, and the tiling industry has been unique. And I thank them, for everything that they've shared with me. Especially you can imagine coming into a business and not knowing, a lot about the business. So, for me, it was a lot of learning and a lot of questions. And that's a key differentiator for our partners is our team. We've got great technical guys on the road that are not afraid to share that part. And look, we're very genuine. We're not dishonest. We don't say things that we can't do. We don't promise things that we can't do. And also, I want us to be known as I mentioned before, as that really reliable partner. I can rely on Roberts because they're going to have the stock. I can rely on Roberts to answer that call because I've got a guy standing at the counter, and I know if I call them, they're going to be able to answer that question. I think that's key, especially in the era now where it seems to be where people are not investing in training. I really see that across quite a few channels is they just want to get people in because and they're turning over people fast. Unfortunately, that has meant that there's a real skills gap, as I mentioned before. And, we really enjoy partnering with retailers that have got a focus on that because we love sharing the knowledge. And my guys, love spending the time with them and love spending the time out the road and having people come through the tiling world and gaining more expertise. So, look, in a nutshell, I think that's why we've grown. That's why I think people like partnering with us. Not everybody's going to like us. I wish they did, but that's the world we live in, isn't it? Not everybody's going to like you, but as I keep saying to the guys, we try our best. We get out there and we keep on peddling the barrow of being that high price, high quality product and providing value to our end users.
Fantastic, mate. Beautiful. I like that. It's poetically put and it sounds great, really. Just one small question. How do you find the best people?
That's a really tough question because
it is a tough question. That's why I thought I'd ask, mate, because you like me, you've probably done a lot of recruiting in your past, and it's every industry today is still suffering post-pandemic in trying to attract good talent. I'm still remarkably blown away by the fact that we have a very, very low unemployment rate in Australia, and it's particularly difficult to find people, particularly in our field. I mean, tiling is when you look at it as an overall aspect of the industry, it's quite a unique marketplace, and you want people that know the products to some point if they're going to hit the ground running. Yeah, have you got any little tips there you can share with us?
Maybe one or two that I've just learned along the way. And look, and I'm by no means the best hirer in the world. And for me, over the years of having really large teams, at one point in time, I had the responsibility of 14 odd countries, and having a really large, diverse team of people, different cultures, different beliefs, and everything in between. And for me, what I learned was a 10 or 15-minute interview, you don't get to learn a lot about somebody. I've coined the term the 4-hour bar chat. What I like to do is actually go out to dinner with somebody, not necessarily just an interview. We can do a shortcut. But I think really once you sit down and you start talking to somebody, they begin to relax and you get to know somebody fairly well over a meal. And for me, I don't necessarily have to have the best technical person come into the role. What I'm really after is somebody that's a good person, that's got a good attitude, that is also fairly positive. I make sure that that we don't have negative attitudes in the business, and we don't talk about what we can't do before we talk about what we can do. For me, it's about solving problems, and you talked before about how your culture goes and sort of what some of your strategy is. And look, and that is part of the culture. Is we're about how do we actually do something, which speaks about how we solve problems in the industry. So I want people in the business to think that way. I don't want just somebody that's a fly-by-nighter. So look, we spend quite a bit of time, and our head of HR, Kylie, is also my general manager, who runs the business. She's the heart of the whole business. She feels people before she hears them, and I think that's pretty important. And the other key aspect in our hiring process is our peers also have a say in who comes into the team. So
wow. That's great.
One of the last hurdles you got to jump over is you're not necessarily drilled by by a board of people, but certainly people that you're going to be working with have the opportunity to sit with you and get to know you as well. And they play a key part, and they all have the opportunity to say no. Because look, at the end of the day, it's easy for me. We can hire people, I can fire them the following week, but I don't have to work with them necessarily. Or directly work with them. So, for us, it's been a journey to have that. But what's the old saying? The tribe will speak. And,
yes.
The toughest will survive, or the people that fit in.
It's like Survivor, mate.
Survive. Well, it is a little bit because look, we've had people come into our business that just don't fit, and they're not a fit, and that's okay. We've got a good culture within the business, and you either fit in or it doesn't work. And I'm a big one for that life's too short. If you're not enjoying coming to work, well, go find something that you actually really want to go and do. I don't have the time or want to have somebody in the business that doesn't want to be there.
Yeah. There's an abundance of things that you can do in life today, and I think that's the one thing that's beautiful about the side hustle launching, many years ago, but the term side hustle being used a lot, and people that have businesses outside of their day jobs and all of the different things that you can do. I mean, we have a computer. Most people have computers, and we're very fortunate, right, in most Western parts of the world where you can open up a laptop and you can type in Google search function, what type of business could I do to earn some extra cash? And it will give you like thousands of replies. So it's not about so much the lack of opportunity, it's the mindset that it takes to actually do that. So, you're right. You want people on board that are going to believe in the journey of the business and believe in the product. And that's so important in future current modern day strategies and also future strategies as well. From 2015 until today, Tell me how much the business has grown in terms of people, different locations, New Zealand, different markets. So we've obviously already talked about the US, but just give us a bit of a look in on some of those stats and numbers of growth that you've had since you've owned the business the last decade.
Yeah, look, it's something that's it's taken a lot of work, and look, I've enjoyed immensely. You know, I come into this business every day because I'm in here having fun, and I really truly enjoy it. You know, for us, the business has grown exponentially. You know, we started out with one little warehouse in Rosebud, and you know how the business started was selling soap dish holders. They were the first ones to get that started really in the industry, and it was quite funny. I just was thinking then about how when I first started meeting some of the customers, oh yeah, I know who you guys are. You're the soap dish guys. I'm thinking to myself, God, we're so much more than that. You know, like looking back, I'm looking at all the inventory, I'm looking at all these product categories, I'm going, man, we need to start talking about actually the other things we can do. You know, and from there we moved premises, you know, to something that was 5 times the size, down into Carrum Downs in Victoria. You know, we grew our product categories, but we spent a lot of time refining what those categories were and communicating the things that we were good at and our capabilities. So, you know, that's seen the business triple in size to what it was when I first took over. We now have 4 warehouses in Australia. We've got Perth, New South Wales, Queensland, and our head office are now in Carrum Downs. And we recently just moved to a premises that's about 7,000 square metres. So, you know, for me,
wow,
you know,
that's awesome.
Now I look out the back of our warehouse, and you know, my eyesight's starting to get bad now. I'm a little bit over 50, but I can't see a lot into the distance. It's a little bit blurry, but you know, when I look all the way down that hallway now, I think, oh wow, you know, 10 years ago we were in Rosebud in 500 square metres.
Wow.
So for me, I'm incredibly proud of it. This business has been built because of the team and the amount of effort that's gone into the people and the products, and making sure we stay true to the model of saving the Tyler time and money. And we're gonna keep going down that. Where do I want the business to be in the next couple of years? I think naturally we'll grow, you know, as we've been doing 20 or 30% a year, and jumping into new categories, because we're looking at new products we want to bring into the market continually. You know, there's a part to our strategy that, you know, I will leak out, which is we've got an innovation focus. You know, we want to have a percentage of our business that are in products that are less than 5 years old in the whole channel. So Guardia fits that. So we're going to keep on pushing at that and bringing innovative products to save the Tyler time and money into the category. So, you know, I'm still scouring the world every other day of the week, looking for new stuff or how to improve a product that's in the market. So, you know, it's been an exciting ride, one that I'm not tired of. I've been asked that quite a few times. Oh, so when are you selling? I've certainly had a few people knock at the door, but I'm not going anywhere. I love this. I've still got plenty of energy. I'm only 50. I'm not going anywhere. They have to take me out in a pine box. But, you know,
nice.
It's one that as long as we've got customers that want to buy our products, you know, they're going to continually see me. So,
Paul, that was an excellent wrap-up, mate. I really appreciate it. And, yeah, I've obviously closely watched your journey, and I've had the pleasure of working with Roberts in my past life as well. So quite a lot of keen interest in seeing how things have unfolded for you over the last 10 years. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on the program today with lots of gratitude. I really appreciate your time. I know you're super busy. And but no, mate, look, obviously, you know, until next time, I'd like you to stay connected. I will ask just one last question, which is, should anybody from the community, from the Tiling Connect community, want to get in touch with you and or Roberts and or Maxi Sill, what are some of the best platforms and or ways for them to do that?
Sure. Look, on both websites, we've got a get in touch area, so they can pop it in there. Or I'm happy for them to reach out to me personally, which is just paul@robertsdesigns.com.au or Paul at Maxi Sill, and always happy to help technically or in any other facet. If I can help somebody, help solve a problem, or even some of our partners, I'm out there trying to help them solve problems in their own business, which, I kind of like to do. So if I can do that, please reach out.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Tiling Connect. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast. To see more of Tiling Connect, jump on our socials and follow us via LinkedIn, Instagram and Facebook. If you'd like to be part of the show, email us at tilingconnect@gmail.com. Until next time, stay connected.